Okay, I have 6:31 on my phone, and it looks like it's at least 6:30 on the clock I'm looking at on the wall, so I will go ahead and call this meeting to order and ask for the roll to be called, please.
Paul,
Here.
Store, Esri,
Here.
Furtado,
Here.
King. Here. Patterson,
Here.
Thorsland.
And just to let the committee know, Eric had informed me at the agenda meeting last week that he's overseas with his job, so that's why I'm chairing the committee tonight. Okay, we'll move on to approval of agenda and addendum. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. King, seconded by Mr. Patterson. Any changes to be made on that? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Thank you, that passes. On to item 4, approval of minutes from the June 10th, 2021 meeting. Is there a motion to approve? Moved by Mr. Storr, seconded by Mr. Paul. Any discussion or corrections, additions to be made on those? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. No nays. So that's approved. Thank you. Okay, we are on to part 5, public participation. I will mention that we ask you to try and keep your comments to 5 minutes or less. And when you come up to the microphone, to at least please state your name for the record. And if you care to, at least maybe your general area where you live. And you'll have to push the lowest button on the base of the microphone until you get the red light. If we have to, we could step up there and help. And first I've got Maren J. Brucker and Don Brucker.
I got it. Oh, yay. Okay. Well, we're all here because of the name change of our street, North Walnut Lane. I am Maren Brucker, and none of us are really happy to change the name of our street. We started out with 2 Walnut Lane from the inception of our street, and then we were forced to change when the emergency service came on to 914 North Walnut Lane. That happened sometime between 1990 and 1997. I couldn't hone in on it exactly. But as of 1999, we still got mail to 2 Walnut Lane that was official mail because I refused to change mine until the post office said I had to. And then 5 years ago, somebody decided to take the north off of our Walnut Lane, and nobody was informed. We've had 3 houses sold in our area in the last 5 years, and no one ever told anybody that the north was gone. So now we just would really ask that it not be changed. Just put north back on it because it doesn't go to anything. We're just out there all by ourselves, and we don't understand why the Village of Muhammad is interested in changing our street. And we would really ask that it doesn't get changed. It's a lot of money. We're going to have to change wills and trusts and checking accounts, driver's license. It's going to be expensive. So we really request that it not be changed. Okay?
Thank you. Mr. Brucker, Don, did you want to speak or?
She said it all. I mean, I've been there for 47 years,
Okay.
and we've never had a problem with mail or anything. And I just don't understand the need to change it. And if it's somebody from Muhammad that's wanting to change, they're in the city, we're in the county. I don't see the need
Okay.
for that. And I just think it's ridiculous.
Okay, thanks. Next I have Amanda Kirby.
I don't really have anything more to add except we have 7 houses on our Walnut Lane, and all of us have either written letters or are here tonight in agreement that it shouldn't be changed. And I guess along with what Don was saying, I just don't understand the reason why for a number of reasons. I am the newest resident to Walnut Lane, and all of my mortgage information is under North Walnut Lane, and it never became an issue during any part of our closing or anything that North wasn't even a part of our street name. And I am honing in on the North part because I think that that helps differentiate between North Walnut Lane and the Walnut Street that maybe is in contention with our address or our street name. And also, I don't think there's an also. I think that's it.
Thank you. Cheryl Burr.
I'm Cheryl Burr. I'm a resident of North Walnut Lane in Mahomet. I'm here with 5 out of 7 of my neighbors in our little cul-de-sac. And I wrote a letter at the last, that we submitted for the last board meeting. And I didn't write a new one or anything, but I'm still in opposition to this name change. And I was doing a little investigating, trying to understand where all this is coming from. And I do understand that the state of Illinois grants authority to counties to regulate street names, and that the county board has the authority to change a name of any street in the unincorporated areas of the county if the address conflicts with addressing standards. So I'd like to address the Champaign County Board Environment and Land Use Committee and just ask who or what is driving this proposed change, because we don't understand exactly why. I've looked at standards and I don't see that we are. I believe there's one address in our cul-de-sac that may not be conforming with the standards. Other than that, I don't understand, because our standards, the standards of the incorporated and the unincorporated areas are similar but are different, and I don't see that we are in non-conformance. So I guess I would ask the board to explain what you have come up with as far as why this proposed name change is occurring. So, and I have suggestions of alternatives if it comes to that, but I just want to put that question out to you to explain that maybe a little bit better to us, but I do stand opposed to the change as well.
Thank you. Jessica Eisenmanger.
Hi, I'm Jessica Eisenmanger. I also live on Walnut Lane. I am wondering if it's driven by the post office. I'm one of the ones, I do get mail from Walnut Street address. We only have that issue with the post office. I've never had Amazon delivery, UPS, FedEx, pizza deliveries. Everyone else can find us. That I will get the mail back and forth a little bit with Walnut Street, but everyone else seems to be able to keep it straight. And I have talked to other people that are not on Walnut, and they also have had issues with getting wrong mail. So it didn't have to do with the duplicate name. So I would hate for us to have to change just because of that. Another concern, as other people mentioned, I just found out a couple weeks ago that we didn't have the North in our name. I had no idea. And I know when I punch our address into Maps Anywhere, it still has North in there. So that is an additional concern of mine. If it gets changed, how long does that, in all kinds of places that auto format things, would that even take place? Because it sounds like the North was taken away a long time ago, but that's still in all the generated systems I've ever used. I had no idea that we weren't even using the North anymore. As other people mentioned, there's a high cost of changing so many different documents, and there's things people already mentioned that I didn't even think of we'd have to change. So I have a feeling there's gonna be things for years going forward that I'd be like, oh my gosh, I forgot to even change that on there. We have a son that's a senior. We're getting all kinds of things from colleges. I know, you would hope that we would get the mail still from the post office if the address changes, but as I've expressed before, I don't have a lot of faith in that happening, so I think we would miss out on a lot of mail and opportunities for our kids that are in high school. And then I think that's everything. I just respectfully request that no change is made. If there is a change, I also have name suggestions as well, but I would strongly prefer it not to be changed if at all possible. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. That was all the slips with names that I had. Does anyone else in the audience care to speak?
I was just curious, Cheryl's
G-
asked you what was the driving behind it.
This isn't where we really discuss that. We can answer that more when we get to the agenda item. But public participation, it's really set up for the public to speak to us and not really and truly have a back and forth conversation. No problem. Okay, seeing no other hands or indication that anyone else cares to speak at this point in time. And I will mention, if I assume you're going to, but if you, all of you stick around, this committee is usually pretty open to having more of a conversation during the agenda item. So if you have other questions or we have questions of you, like I say, we're usually pretty open to having that conversation then. So.
I find it interesting that we're the only ones here requesting this on the other side. Not
Yeah. Okay, so we'll close public participation and move on then to 6, communications. Are there any communications from the committee members? Don't see any. We will then move on to our first well, it's not really an action item. 7, new business for information only. We have A, Governor's Office procedures to appoint local officials to pending Mahomet Aquifer Council. Ms. Monty, please.
Hello, this is an update from our June discussion of this information. And this bill, Senate Bill 2515, creates the Mahomet Aquifer Council, and it is awaiting Governor's Office action, namely a signature or a non-action, which would, by default, let it be adopted. So once this bill is enacted, and the date was June 17th, so it's a 2-month kind of thing, something will happen by August 17th is the expectation. Governor Pritzker will appoint 7 members to represent numerous local government bodies located over the Mahomet Aquifer. And so I spent some time trying to reach out to find out about the procedures as was requested, about how these appointments will be made. And I did get in contact with the governor's office assistant who informed me of their protocol. And that is essentially to reach out to the bill's sponsors, in this case, Senator Chapin Rose and House Representative Carol Amons, and then discuss their expectations about which local government representatives should be appointed by the governor. So a lot of behind-the-scenes work goes on to advise the governor, possibly. And I did try to reach out to Senator Chapin Rose and House Representative Carol Amons' office and did not succeed. So I did also talk with County Executive Darlene Kleppel, and she will be making efforts to reach out to speak with Senator Chapin Rose and House Representative Carol Amons once this bill is enacted, presumably. So if people here have an interest in serving on that council, I would recommend that you get in touch with Darlene Kleppel. So that's the update.
Thank you, Susan. Is there any discussion or questions on that item? Seeing none, we will move on then to 7B, Material Management Advisory Committee Report to Illinois General Assembly And go ahead, Ms. Monty, again, please.
Hello. Okay, so some of you may remember about 15 months ago or so, I received your authority to serve on this committee, and it's been a very wonderful experience and learned quite a bit and was able to contribute some of my interests in making better options available for household hazardous waste collection around the state. And I was able to help formulate the new template for local governments who have to update their solid waste management plans. So that work is done. The report has been forwarded to the General Assembly on July 1st. It is available online if you'd like to see the whole thing. And some there's like a number of recommendations in this report, and I pointed out 3 that have some possibly sooner repercussions for the county. And one is that starting next July, the IEPA plans to issue 2 rounds of grants, competitive grants, to support composting programs and recycling programs. So that will be wonderful to possibly take advantage of. Also, starting in state fiscal year 2023, IEPA has agreed to provide full support of up to 5 new household hazardous waste collection facilities around the state in qualifying areas of the state. And that means they will pay for the transportation and processing associated with household hazardous waste collection. This was always implied before, but now it's more definitively in writing, so we don't have to just hope. We know that could happen. And so then finally, there's a 3rd point, which I'm missing from my notes here. I mentioned the template that would be used to update county solid waste management plans, and that is now available and will be used for our update. So that's my points.
Thank you. Discussion from the committee on this. Questions? Oh, go ahead.
Just thanks for your work
Stephanie.
on all this.
Yes, I'll echo that. Go ahead, Mr. Storr.
Thank you. Susan, thank you very kindly for serving on that committee. We're going to divert waste from landfills. It's going to be incremental and through a lot of work. Have you, did the single-use plastics are increasingly becoming a target for of concern because the plastics break down into small particles that end up becoming parts of aquatic creatures that become parts of fish, did the committee or did the materials management cover any of that?
Specifically addressing the reducing reliance on single-use plastics wasn't specified, but there's plenty of opportunities to include that in a county waste management plan, and it is supported by the waste management hierarchy, supported by the state. What was addressed was packaging and containers and trying to reduce the reliance of plastics and trying to increase the circular economy aspects of container and packaging, including plastics and glass.
I'll just follow on to say that prior to the pandemic, I was lucky enough to visit a small island at the southern tip of South America, and they asked me, they were wondering why the United States was behind even them. So here we are, a small little island, and we've managed to kind of do some of these things to protect our environment. They wondered why we were so slow. Chairman?
Thanks. Anybody else? Further discussion, comments? Seeing none, we will then move on to our first action item. Number 8, new business, items to receive and place on file by ELUC to allow a 30-day review period. A, proposed work plan for completion of Champaign County Solid Waste Management Plan 5-year update. Is there such a motion? Moved by Ms. Furtado. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Patterson. Discussions, Susan, do you want to lead off, maybe?
Yeah, it's essentially time to do this update. Every 5 years, it's due to IEPA, and we now have a template that is wonderful to follow. It will accommodate new concepts. The template was an update to the template previously used by IEPA that was over 25 years old, so this is a fresh template to address current concerns.
Thank you. Discussion on this item, if any. Go ahead, Mr. Storr.
Will you be coming back to the committee from time to time to report as this progresses?
I will. In fact, there will be opportunities and public input sought throughout this process, and I would plan in December to come back to the Environment and Land Use Committee to have some public participation, invited guests.
Thank you. Further discussion? Seeing none, ready to vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. None. Thank you. That passes. On to number 9, new business, items to be approved by ELUC. We have A, recreation and entertainment license, Generations Music Booking NFP for live bands at the Champaign County Fairgrounds, 1302 North Kohler Avenue, Urbana, for September 2nd, 2021 through September 5th, 2021. Is there a motion to approve? Moved by Ms. King. Is there a second? Seconded by Ms. Furtado. Any discussion on this? I believe, Mr. Hall, this has occurred several times in the past, and the sheriff has already signed off on it. So, Mr. Storr.
Thank you, Chairman Esri. We're starting to kind of, looks like getting a pickup on the number of COVID cases, and also the Delta variant is starting to make its way around the country. Is there any, do the organizers have any provision for trying to reduce spread of that infection, or is that something that we should raise and talk about at this time? It's a month away, but something of a concern.
I don't know if the organizers are planning to make any provisions for that. I think most of this music is outdoors. So I suspect they would say we're following the recommendations. It's outdoors. Yeah. So, and to be truthful, I don't know if the health department, what role the health department might play in things like this. But normally, we don't run these by the health department, and so this hasn't been reviewed by the health department.
Do they serve food or alcohol?
Well, I've never been here to this thing. The R&E license doesn't ask for any information like that. But you're right, if they serve food, they definitely have to get a health department review. So, and as Ms. Furtado points out, there is food vending indicated on the site plan, so they should be getting a health department license for that. That's all I have.
I remember you asking this question in the previous year as well. If this is something of the reality of the world that we live in, maybe then we should do some work on changing the way we write the application and the permitting process, as opposed to having this discussion for each event. That leaves so much room for each event being different. That if this is a common question, maybe we should do the work where that we ask it ahead of time, so that way we won't ever single out one particular event. Like, that'd be my only.
Further discussion.
I hate to suggest that we consult the health department on a single instance, as Mr. Paul raises, but it certainly is, he's quite right. We ought to, is there a way that we should work with the health department to include at least some consultation with them in the permitting process, or is that out of line for our responsibilities?
If I were tasked to do that, I would start with the state's attorney's office to see what discretion we have in regards to that. And if the state's attorney thinks that, what it might require is an amendment to the R&E license ordinance to specifically provide for that. And, we were here a year ago, didn't know we'd be here a year later. But if the committee wants, I could check with the state's attorney's office about that. But would that, I'm assuming that wouldn't apply to this license because it's coming up so soon. It's before the next committee meeting, so.
We had decided that particular aspect wasn't totally in the scope of our job. But if I'm open for it to be coming, but to switch all of a sudden seems not fair.
Thanks. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of approval, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Thank you. It passed. Okay, are then on to 10 new business items to be recommended to the county board. We have A, proposed change of street name for Walnut Lane. I guess we'll discuss this first. Mr. Hall, do you care to start off and maybe even for one answer, like where the push is coming from?
The request for the name change came from the Village of Mahomet. They're getting complaints from their residents along Walnut Street, and GIS checked with ESDA, or with the METCAD, and METCAD fully supports the change. They don't go out and look for address problems, but when one comes to their attention, they will always recommend eliminating the address problem. So that's who's pushing for it. I think it's fair to say the county board can do what they think best, but public safety folks are calling for eliminating this address problem and renaming Walnut Lane.
Thank you. Discussion from the committee members.
Do we have
Mr. Paul, go ahead.
Do we have any power to change Walnut Street in Mahomet proper?
no.
We have no,
They're being their own incorporated village or
so, but the same,
town, whatever, we have no jurisdiction over that.
so there's no way to help these people opposed to voting no?
I would say you're correct. If you, we can vote no as a committee. And, if we vote no as a committee, just saying it would not obviously advance to the full board. And as of right now, it would be a, moot item. It'd be dead. Not to say that I guess eventually it couldn't come back up again, to a future board, but I wouldn't expect us to see it real quick again, I guess, unless maybe some true tragedy happened, but that, of course, hasn't happened as of right now anyway. Just go ahead, Mr. Paul, I see you. Oh, okay, no problem. I get what you're saying. You're kind of shutting your individual microphone or speaker off. Ms. Furtado.
I have two questions. How many people live on Muhammad Street? Do we know?
You mean on Walnut Street?
Yeah, sorry. Walnut Street in Muhammad? I just collapsed it all together.
I actually don't know, but it's some multiple of how many live on Walnut Lane. I don't know. Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
I will say, I do think it, I would say, especially knowing that we delayed the decision and that nobody who asked for it came to speak about it is a little, and I don't know. And that's reflected on them, not, but like, if they really wanted it, they could have sent somebody, I kind of feel.
Is there any added way to add the north back then and make a formal, like I grew up on South Point Drive, and the south was a part of the title. Is there any way to go back a step again?
Well, it was never formally North Walnut Lane. Staff recommendation would be definitely not to go with North Walnut Lane, but again, the committee can recommend what you think is best.
I'll ask a quick question, kind of a follow-up to Jacob's. Maybe this was discussed at the last ELEC meeting when we did postpone this, but till tonight. But if we were to add the north, does that truly go against like the existing or the setup naming decision or process?
That goes against the addressing standards.
That's what I thought. Thanks.
Now, several of the citizens here tonight said they had, again, they're strongly opposed, but they did have alternatives. And so I don't know if you want to listen to those alternatives.
I guess first I'll ask, is there any further discussion right now from the committee? Go ahead, Ms. Furtado.
I will say, they are right, is that north is in like Google Maps and everything else. So like, we might not call it north, but everyone calls, like, that, you know what I'm saying? Like, the name is what people call it, no matter, you know, like, that's actually what the name is, I would argue, street standards aside.
Sure. I did see, I believe Mr. Eisenmenger had a comment to make, but I just check, is the committee okay with having a discussion? Technically we should, if it's consensus, we'll just go ahead. Otherwise, we'll take a vote to basically. Okay. With consensus, Mr. Eisenmenger, if you have something to say. Well, Okay, thank you. Ms. Berger, would you please come up to the microphone again? Mr. Eisenmaker, you spoke fairly loud, but in part, it's being recorded. I mean, the true record is the written minutes, but it is being recorded, so that will help eventually people on hear better. So go right ahead, Ms.
You-
Brucker.
You said it was never officially 914 North Walnut Lane? Then how did we get it? Because we were forced to change it. So somebody decided a long time ago that we were 914 North Walnut Lane, our street address. I didn't want to change it then, but we were forced to. So how is it not official? That's all I have.
Mr. Brucker, yeah, please, I just ask you to please step up to the microphone, Don, thanks.
So, all I know is the Mahomet Fire Department knows where we're at. 30 years, we've had the ambulances come out, the fire department has come out and done practices next to us by the church. And when Bill Lesser lived in what was Bill's number? It was 902. The ambulances made it there several times. I mean, and the police have made it there several times. They know where we're at. So I just don't see where safety's a problem. That's not a problem at all.
Thank you. So, discussion, I guess. Oh, go right ahead. Ms. Burr, go right ahead.
Okay, so I don't know about the whole MedCat thing. I agree that we've had several calls out to that area, and they've always responded quickly. Maybe something's happening in South Walnut Street. I don't know. So we are led to believe this was coming from that reason, for a safety reason. We are led to believe it's people getting the wrong mail. I thought people were possibly getting the wrong packages. But there's only 3 houses with the same street number. And there are some, I believe, non-conforming address standards with at least 2 of those that I think could, when I talked about changes, it's not that I'm proposing a name change. I'm proposing there's a couple other things that I think are in error that could be changed that might eliminate the need to change the whole street name. But again, it's like what's the real reason for the change? Is it safety? That's one thing. Is it this dual addresses? I think there are ways to make those changes. But yeah, again, I just don't really feel like I know for sure why, other than MedCat, why this is happening. I don't see that the addresses are non-conforming. I haven't gotten evidence for that. If that makes any sense.
I would just like to say in defense of these people, I live in Mahomet, and they're doing a lot to annex unincorporated parts of town, and just, defense of Lake of the Woods, Illinois, unincorporated Mahomet, that I think we should, not potentially lose a taxing body in the future if we allow them to change the name of the roads now. That's really my big no.
Thank you. Further discussion, I guess, from the committee. Mr. Patterson.
John, we didn't have it in the packet for this month, but could you remind us what the specific aspects were that made it outside of the standard?
Well, I don't remember the technical term for the principal name, but the principal name is Walnut. And that's the primary, that's why it's out of conformance with the addressing standards. 2 different streets with the same primary name, and there is some overlap in numbering. I don't know the full extent of the overlap. I'm not the one that analyzed it. But at the core, the problem is Walnut Street and Walnut Lane. Walnut is the common, and again, I don't remember the principle, the name of, the addressing breaks the name down, and they give a name to each part, and the Walnut is the same thing, and that is the problem.
I just want to point out that we're talking about Lake of the Woods, Illinois. It's a separate community next to Mahomet. It's not actually Mahomet.
So it's a township though, right? It's
No,
not,
it's a combination of townships, but it was unincorporated, it'd be a place that was around Muhammad at the same time, but it is very much not Muhammad.
Yeah, I guess just to clarify, the address is Muhammad. I understand it's not within the village limits, but we're talking about, North Walnut Lane, Muhammad, right? Okay.
In that respect, yeah, it'd be like I live, if you know Windsor Road, I live basically 4 miles east of 130, but it's a St. Joseph address. I mean, because that's where my mail comes out of. So, well, it's up to the committee. Someone either needs to, I guess, make a motion, or I guess if there's absolutely no motion, it kind of just dies in and of itself. Or as Mr. Hall stated, do we wish to hear, as Mrs. Burr mentioned, like her comments about things that are otherwise maybe you could fix it somewhat, Ms. King?
So can I ask real quick, if we decide not to change this name and the worst happens and in an emergency they go to the wrong address, will the county have any liability in that case?
Not as far as I know. No actual liability.
And that just made me think, based on your question, I suppose if we wanted like an answer to that specific question, just saying, we could yet postpone this again, if it was felt that that was a good enough question that we wanted to have it asked and answered by the state's attorney's office, since we obviously don't have them on speed dial right now. So I'm just throwing that out there. But yeah, as I say, as of right now, there's no motion. So if someone cares to make a motion, or am I not right, John, if there is no action taken, do we absolutely have to take action one way or the other, or can it just die? I forget, or Mr. Patterson, do you know in the, that's where I don't truly know on the Roberts rules to truly follow them. If we,
I think once there's no longer debate, we would have to vote on the motion that's on the floor, unless somebody did a motion to table it or defer it to next month or something.
Mr. Storr, looks like.
I was gonna suggest that we could table this and bring it up at another time.
Is table the correct, or is it continue? I forget, always forget. I think it's continue, isn't it? But technically.
Tabling stops any further action until it's removed from the table.
Yeah, it almost seems
And
like
if it's not removed from the table before the next election, then it's
it's
no
kind of a
longer
way
an
to
issue.
kill it. So if we truly want to discuss it again, I think it's continue, because table, I think, is supposed to be at the same meeting.
Oh, okay.
I think.
Well,
so- or
that's
something
the
to that
question I
effect.
have, because
I always
theoretically,
forget.
everything has to be on an agenda.
Yeah.
And so maybe if it's tabled, we indicate that on every agenda so that you can pull it off.
Yeah, I hear you. Ms. Furtado?
and I mean, I don't even know what I think. Like, if it wasn't for the safety issue, like that's my one hang up on it. Although, I don't know. But I do kind of feel like if we're gonna, like, I'm not for tabling it. I mean, I think, like, this is the second time. Like, these folks shouldn't have to just keep coming to these meetings to tell us the same thing. I think that John's got 3,000 things on his plate too. Like, I think we kind of just owe everybody a vote. The end.
Step up, I again ask you, but yeah, no, again, for the public record better.
So, I mean, I get the safety piece of it. My analogy would be if Domino's can find us, I'm assuming that Kohler can find us with the fire department. I mean, he knows where we live. But you've got a quorum of 910 North Walnut here now. I mean, I don't understand why a safety, I really appreciate it. I do. If I were to die of a heart attack or have a heart attack, you guys are concerned about my health. But I mean, we have a quorum here now of North Walnut Lane that I think would agree that we trust that our fire department, and we have an in-house now Muhammad ambulance service that will get to our house and rescue us. So, I do appreciate the safety piece of it, but I'm not concerned really with that piece of it. I mean, we have a fantastic community, township, town, everything. So, I mean, I do appreciate the safety piece of it, but I don't think that's a hang up of anybody that's in this crowd, so.
Thank you. I had just, I guess, a comment on the safety issue. This is maybe a little far-fetched as far as ever happening, but the idea that there are, I'm sure, street names in like Champaign-Urbana that are the same names in surrounding communities in the county. Again, would hope and pray this would never happen, but we're all humans. We all sometimes make a mistake. If by chance it was, in Champaign-Urbana, but someone somehow punched the wrong something in and, there it is on their screen. And instead of checking the Champaign-Urbana real close, it ended up being, the street in St. Joseph or something, and they happened to send it. I mean, hopefully it would get caught pretty quick, but that's just, that in my mind kind of ties into the whole idea of the same street names. Now, granted, something in St. Joe isn't as close to Champaign, in my example, as this is to truly the street in Mahomet. Go ahead, Ms. Furtado.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's a lot of just in Champaign and Urbana where they're the same name, and it's super duper confusing. Like the street names in Champaign Urbana is like they make no sense. Like it's at all.
We've got how many streets named Church? Yeah.
To
Mr.
that
Paul.
point, I'm being, I frequent a sandwich place called Cat's Deli, and it's on the corner of First and First in Manhattan. And I can get an Uber there after I get my sandwich every time. So I'm pretty sure the idea of someone getting confused and us being liable seems really far-fetched when we have literally a whole neighborhood asking, please don't.
Go ahead, Ms. King.
I'd just like to say one thing that speaks volumes to me is the body that requested this, Muhammad, haven't talked to us at all. Like, this is what they want. I'd like to hear more from them about why this needs to happen, other than reasons that are kind of outside the scope of what I think we should be doing as a board.
Thank you, Mr. Patterson.
Something for me that's kind of been a holdup is, to allude to what Mary just mentioned, is that I don't understand what initiated it. I remember back when they extended Lincoln Avenue, and Lincoln Avenue used to trail off, but they extended the main road, and the idea was we needed, because their name was literally the same thing, and they also didn't want something that was too similar because they were right by each other. And to me, that made sense of what initiated that. And with this, I guess I just don't. I understand. I'm just looking at it now. The two roads. Typically, if there's a north and a south, they're aligned, and these are far apart. And so I get that it's not completely in compliance, but it's a house with, I believe, 7 homes. Is that right? And how many households are represented here tonight? If the issue is safety, I feel like it's there. If this is their decision and they, don't want to do this, I think that outside of there being, something that's sort of triggering a concern, it seems, it causes a disruption for people to have to do this. So, yeah, I feel like I'm sort of straying away from wanting to take any action on it.
I forget your last name, but if you have a comment, go right ahead.
Sorry, my name is Amanda Kirby, and I forgot all the things that I was going to say. But the first one was actually in the city of Mahomet. There is at least one street name that is on 2 different streets, and the second one, what was all my points I was going to make? It was something that Miss King spoke to, but correct me if I'm wrong. The issue wasn't brought up by the emergency system. It was brought up by the village board?
Well, it was first brought up by the Community Development Office in Mahomet, and then it was supported, they were the ones getting the complaints, and then it was supported by METCAD.
Okay, but I'm assuming that the complaints weren't from METCAD.
No, the original complaints were from, as I understand it, they were from village residents on Walnut Street, went to the Community Development Office. The Community Development Office coordinates with the GIS Consortium on addresses. So they asked about the change. GIS agreed that there was, didn't meet the standards. GIS contacted METCAD. METCAD, you're right, it doesn't meet the standard. We'd like to see it changed. So
Okay.
that's
So just like everyone else in this room, like I would hate for any sort of medical emergency, like confusion to happen. But it just doesn't seem like to me, although MedCAD is in agreement, it wasn't brought up by them. And also just on a funny note, we do have a nurse practitioner on Walnut Lane, so we're all taken care of.
Step right up.
In looking into possibly the origin of all this, I almost hesitated to bring it up, but out of the 3 address numbers, that there's an overlap between North Walnut Lane and South Walnut Street, and I'm going to keep those north and south in there. The one person who does have a lot of issues with mail coming, who has the same number as this couple back here, is actually on the board, the village board of Mahomet. So, seems a little fishy, but it is someone whom I adore. I know and I care for very much, but it makes me wonder how much of this is a mail issue, because he's on the board and all of a sudden this came up and it's like, So I just wanted to throw that out there, that in some ways that seems to us like that's where it's coming from, and that's one person, and I think there's other ways we could possibly deal with that.
Thank you. Go ahead, Stephanie.
I just want to say, I mean, I do want to recognize that, you know, it is John's job to tell us what the right, like what the planning standards are and what, you know, GIS and MACAD recommend. I mean, that is important. So I don't want you to think, but I also think there's very few, I mean, there's very few streets, I feel like, where everybody knows each other. And there's also, it just seems like there's not very many issues where we get this kind of turnout, you know what I mean, and of people. And I mean, I'm with Kyle, I voted for the Lincoln Road one, even though that was also a tough vote, because I mean, those folks were upset too, but that to me made a lot of sense. Like, it was this very clear, it stunk, but we needed to do it. And I don't know that I feel like this one is as clear. And I do think Jacob brings up some points too about what the broader reasons for this might be down the road.
So just, well, we need a motion first. Does someone care to make a motion? Yeah, we don't have a motion yet. So Ms. Furtado, go right ahead. Or if you want to make a motion, or well, we need a motion. I guess to either, it's sounding like, I guess maybe turn this down or leave it as is, however it would best be worded.
I think let's just vote, right? I mean,
Well-
I'll move it. I'll move the proposed change of the street name for Walnut Lane for a vote.
Proposed.
So a vote in the affirmative would be to change the name.
Well, I'm moving the motion.
Right, yeah, but
Okay, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. I was thinking of it oppositely, to like have it worded to not change it, but you're saying you're moving it, proposed change of street name for Walnut Lane, basically, or you're,
I'm trying to just
and then
get
if
us
we
to the
don't
point
want
where
it, we
we're gonna
vote. If we
vote.
don't want it, we vote no, is what
Yes,
you're saying.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I'm just clarifying. And Go right, well,
I
go
mean,
right ahead, Kyle. You're,
I don't think we even really need to move it. I think that if there's no motion or if there's no second right now, that it would die.
unless we would care to truly make it, I mean, I guess, again, I'm not the
You know
absolute
what,
bet.
second-
If
I
we do, if
second
we
her
do have a
motion.
motion seconded and it's voted on, it's for sure.
Yeah, I second the motion.
Okay. So the motion is to change the name with no name, other name listed at this point in time. That would, just saying if it would pass, that would be another discussion. So if you vote yes on this motion that is on the floor, it means that you are for changing it, but to an unspecified name at this point in time. If you vote no, it's to leave it as is. Everyone clear? And this to me just truly gets it on the record better, I guess, by truly having a motion like this. So, ready to vote. All in favor, please say aye. Hearing none. All opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
Nay. Thank you. Motion does not pass. Well, did we make that too hard on you, Mary? Ward, Ms. Ward, you got it? Okay, okay. Thank you. And thank you, just say thank you to all coming out for public participation. It is good to hear from the public.
Thank you.
Okay, I believe then we are ready to move on to 10B, subdivision case 206-21, Francis Wood Estate subdivision, final plat approval of a one-lot minor subdivision located in the southwest quarter of Section 19 and the northwest quarter of Section 30 of Township 17 North, Range 8 East of the 3rd Principal Meridian in Pesotum Township, and commonly known as the farmhouse at 602 County Road 200 North, Pesotum. And I will make a mention, John has informed me that we do have the engineer in the audience if there would be representing this subdivision, if we would happen to have questions that he may be able to answer. So this one, I will ask for a motion first before any discussion, please. Is there such a motion? Mr. Storr moved. Is there a second by Ms. King? Thank you. Okay, I will open the floor for discussion, or Mr. Hall, if you have anything to say first. Okay. Anybody have any questions on this from the committee? Mr. Storr, go right ahead.
I'd commend the very good information that was provided, the maps and so forth. I looked at the soil report by Mr. McLeese, and I noted that, and that's on page 58, 59. The drummer soil, which is the predominant soil here, is notoriously poorly drained, and I'm concerned. Although this is kind of in a rural area, and well, I'm not hurting nobody. Probably pretty close to true. The difficulty that I see, having lived in a house which had a failed septic system, is that this is almost certainly going to be a failed septic system, at least seasonally. And this is the second one of these that we've kind of looked at this year, and I would reluctantly vote to approve, but I'm just disappointed that we can't kind of promote the use of alternatives other than conventional septic. and encourage some of these other techniques that like the Wisconsin mound and so forth that are used in other poorly drained areas.
This house is already, I mean, there's already a house there, correct, John? We know how long it's, by chance, when it was first built, by chance?
I don't know how long it's been there. I didn't have cause to go back through the aerials, but I'm certain it's been there since before zoning. And it is quite common for I agree with Mr. Storr's concerns about Drummer. It's quite common for new systems to have curtain drains. And the good thing here is that talks about a tile that actually is on the lot. And you could certainly connect a curtain drain to a tile. And once that curtain drain is in place, you've corrected a lot of the problems with Drummer, not all. The letter from Public Health talks about, and then if you put an aeration unit before your leach field, then that would be another way to deal with the problems with Drummer. So I agree, you wouldn't really want to be approving a brand new greenfield lot that is all Drummer. That's not a good thing to do. But this house has been there for more than 40 years, and they're trying to get the property ready for the final estate. And so, I hope the committee can see their way to approving this subdivision.
Go ahead, Stephanie.
You mentioned the tile, and that actually, the one question I had was what is this, the 2 mile slough or slough? I don't know how you say that. Slough. I tried 2 ways and it was neither one. Drainage district. When we do something like this, do we talk to the drainage district folks over there? Do they like sign off on it, or do they have a comment, or only if it's in the right of way, or how does that work? Is there any coordination with them?
We may have sent, we should have sent a letter out to the drainage district. We didn't get any comments back, and I wouldn't expect that for a subdivision like this. But, and we also do look for, when we know them, drainage district tile, because those we want to be especially careful of. But there's none on this lot.
Yeah, that's what I was going to make a comment. If it's not a drainage district-owned tile that they're responsible for, they probably aren't going to comment. I did see...
They
go
do
ahead.
care, I'm sorry, but they do care about all the tile, right? Not just the ones they own, or?
Basically, I mean, I guess I would say they maybe kind of, since they tend to know their area, they probably are kind of aware of any new tiles going in for the most part. But ultimately, I mean, other than district-owned tiles, maintained tiles, which are usually pretty old. I mean, not saying they can't put new stuff in, but that doesn't happen very often anymore. Any new tile or tile that really isn't in the, owned by the district, unless they happen to take it over, it's the landowner's responsibility, or potentially, multiple landowners if they put it in initially and have some kind of agreement, since it's beneficial to them all. Now, I did see the engineer had a comment to make, if we care to let him come forward and speak. And just once again, if you'd please state your name. And I see the microphone, I believe, is still on, so you won't have to turn it on. Thank you.
Yes, my name's Merle Ingersoll, and I'm the engineer or surveyor for the property. I did ask the family to give me a little bit more background on the property when I first started this project. From what I understand, the farmhouse and the barn and such was built prior to 1920, and it was dubbed a Centennial Farm. And probably due to the tiling system, the curtain tile and so forth, they have never had any issues with their septic or leakage field. So, however, we did due to the requirements, we did have a soil evaluation done, and presented that to the Public Health Department, and the family's aware that if the system ever did fail, that they would have to follow those guidelines that the Health Department presented to them as far as how many square feet and so forth that needed to be used. This is of a family farm. Prior to 1930, it was created from Joseph Henry. It was his estate, and he passed that on to Frank Henry, the 41 acres, and that was eventually given to Francis Wood, as one of his daughters. And really, the family just wants to try to. Frances is getting up in the years. She's 92, and she's trying to figure out how to create her estate and set aside certain things for each one of her kids. And the farmstead, they're just trying to maintain that and keep that all in the family. So I can answer any other questions if you'd like, but.
Go ahead, Ms. King.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, that this is not coming up for sale. This right now is just part of the estate, and then it will be passed on to whichever heir after Ms. Woods passes away.
Yes. And they want to keep everything the way it is, so.
Further discussion, comments? Thank you, Mr. Ingersoll, for giving us that information. If there's no further comments, ready to vote? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Thank you. That is approved unanimously. And we are on to 10C, zoning case 008-AT-21, amend the Champaign County zoning ordinance by amending section 5.2 by adding agronomic research and training facility as a special use permit in the AG1 agriculture and AG2 agriculture zoning districts. Is there such a motion? Moved by Mr. Storr. Is there a second? Moved, seconded by Mr. Patterson. Thank you. Discussion on this, or John, if you have anything to say to begin with, thanks.
I would say the Urbana Plan Commission is considering this tonight. They're not considering, I mean, they always review our text amendments to their credit. They always want to know what's going on. So the Plan Commission is reviewing it tonight. Susan Bergstrom is there in case they have any questions. Monday night, the City Council will review it. I'll be there at the City Council meeting. We don't really anticipate any problems. Doesn't always work out that way, but we have our fingers crossed. Well, and again, yes. So they'll let us know if they have any concerns.
Ms. Furtado.
Could we vote on it, and then if there are any concerns, yank it off the consent?
Definitely, I was gonna, this is one of them that I was, if it passes unanimously here, I was gonna ask if we, ask the committee probably if we wanted to keep it off, just so that,
Okay.
And we can decide that right now if we want to, just by consensus, as far as I'm concerned, if we want to keep it off.
I mean, if there's no concerns, then let's just put it on the consent. So I say let's just, if it
Okay,
passes,
yeah, okay.
let's keep
I
it
hear
on
you.
consent, and then just, if there is a concern, then we can pull it, and that would
Well,
be
and
the reason why.
John can let us
'Cause
know.
that would make our meeting,
Mr. Hall can let us know.
3 minutes less on,
Yeah, I hear you. He can let us know because
hey,
he-
they're all important 3 minutes.
he can let us know, of course, because
Right.
one person at the regular board meeting can pull it off of consent. So if a concern does come up, Mr. Patterson.
We've discussed this before in the past, correct? What's the location?
Well, again, this is a text amendment.
Oh, okay. So this is
Yeah, this could be anywhere in your Ag 1 and Ag 2 districts.
okay.
We-
So why is the city of Urbana specifically mentioned?
Well, because they have an ETJ, and if this is going to introduce a problem into their ETJ, they would like to prevent it before it happens. I don't really think there's a chance for that happening. If something like this was going to be within a mile and a half of the city of Urbana, they would probably have to have sewer extended, and then that would be under an annexation agreement. So for that reason, I really doubt that the city will have any concerns, but we'll have to
Yeah,
wait and
that's
see.
why I was kind of confused, because I thought, because Urbana was objecting, it was something that was,
Yeah, no, they're not objecting yet, but
they just have to
they're
be,
just
or-
looking out for their ETJ.
Go ahead.
Does Champaign have considering this?
No, they're not. They actually jumped on it real early and discussed it at a staff level and then decided there's really no concern here. And so they did not send it through the process.
I'll just, Mr. Patterson, I guess property that brought this forward is off of I forget what county road it is, but it's the county road between, if you know where, straight west from Philo over to 45. So it's 1 or 2 miles east of the railroad track from 45, if I remember right, is where they were talking about this facility.
Yeah.
So it's along that road. So just to throw that out there, that's where they proposed it, and that's where this came forward, that, well, it doesn't fit into the zoning for this ag, but yet staff at least, and it's, I guess, yet to be seen if we agree, since we haven't truly voted on it, that it fits into this, but we need to add it to the text. Ms. Furtado?
I'll just echo what I think we all said this before, but just given the U of I and their role in ag research and Champaign County and what we do, having that agronomic research and training facility, to me, it just makes a ton of sense.
Mr. Storr, go right ahead.
Thank you. Did you say this is on the road west of Philo? Okay. That'll be the new road that we're going to be doing the massive multi-million-dollar upgrade on?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay.
It's a county-maintained road there on
Okay.
that 2-lane.
Right.
I mean, and are they, well, never mind, it doesn't really pertain to this, so. I just thought I'd mention how it came about, I guess, clarify it a little bit again. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Thank you, that passes unanimously, but Mr. Hall, if you just let us know, if you would please, if there is some concern from Urbana, and if there is, let the committee know, I guess, it shouldn't take much of a group email, and one of us can pull it off, if so desired. I mean, maybe the concern of Urbana, I mean, just saying, so we don't think it is a concern, I mean, but anyway, so that passed unanimously. Okay, we were on to 11, other business. We have the monthly reports. We have the May 2021 and the June 2021. Are there comments, questions on these? Or Mr. Hall, if you have anything to say about these? Seeing none, we will receive those and place them on file. Chair's report, I have nothing. And designation of items to be placed on the consent agenda, we have 10B and 10C at this point in time. And with that, if there's nothing else, I will call this meeting adjourned at, it looks like about 7:45 or thereabouts. And thank you.